Hello everyone, and welcome or welcome back to Gander Gardening with Dawn. Today's video is going to be about plants that you can quite easily start by the winter sowing method. Since my last video about a week ago, I have gained, I'm happy to say, a lot of new subscribers, and I am so thrilled about that. Thank you to each and every one of you. One of the things that I would like to tell you about the plants that I've included in this video is that I have previously grown all of these by the winter sowing method and had success. And by success, I mean that they have grown and they have bloomed. So wherever possible, I have used, and I'm attaching here on this video, photos from my own garden. Number one is amazing gray poppies. And these are my own seed because if you watched my last video, my resolution for 2026 is to grow as many seeds as I can from my own seeds, as many plants as I can, from my own seeds. So these seeds, amazing gray poppies, I have gathered from the same, I've done this now for 3 years in a row. I have grown them by the winter sowing method, saved the seeds, and then planted them by the winter sowing method, and so on. So I haven't bought seeds for these for at least 4 years. I would recommend number 2 on my list of 8 plants would be pansies. Any sort of pansies. I have grown pansies by the winter sowing method before, and they have done amazingly well. In fact, pansies have a reputation for being a little hard to germinate, but they germinate really well outside. And they're the type of plant that like the cold, and they also will bloom fairly early. They grow quickly, even though spring does not come early around these parts, that's for sure. So I highly recommend any sort of pansy by winter sowing. The third plant that I would recommend is a biennial. And this one I have grown many times by winter sowing, and it's snow thimble foxglove. Snow thimble is a white, tall foxglove, and it is a hybrid, so you have to grow it from seed to make sure that you get the white one. But I have found this one does really well by winter sowing, and the thing is that the first year, no matter, even if you started these indoors, they're not going to bloom the first summer. So why not grow them really easily by winter sowing? Let nature do all of the hard work, and they're going to bloom the following year in any case. And they'll certainly get enough time after they germinate to do well the following year. So these I'm growing again this year, and I won't expect to see these blooms until 2027. The fourth plant that I would recommend growing by winter sowing is rose campion. This is another biennial, and it has a gray, green foliage, very fuzzy, much like Landseer's, the foliage, in fact, and it has bright, bright magenta flowers. You can get it in other colors. You can get a light pink, you can get a white, you can get a bicolor, I believe. But this is the most common, and this happens to be the one I like the most. So this one, I'm definitely growing a few more of these. These do extremely well with winter sowing. The fifth plant that I would highly recommend starting by the winter sowing method would be Columbines and Aquilegia. The one that I've had great success with is Barlow mixed columbine. And as I stated before, my plan is to grow as many from my own seeds. These are my own collected seeds. And these may not come true. They may cross-pollinate with another columbine, but I love all columbines, so I'm not too worried about that. But if in a few years I decide that I would like to have some that are definitely Barlow mix, I'll purchase some fresh seed and start over again. But the sixth plant that I would recommend growing by winter sowing would be Echinacea. Now, in my last video, I talked about starting powwow wildberry echinacea seeds, and those I'm going to start indoors. And I had them ordered from Vessie's Seeds. Well, they came, but right now they're in my refrigerator because I'm giving them a few days of cold before I plant them. But those are designed to bloom in the first year, and I grew them last year indoors, the seeds, starting them fairly early, and they definitely did bloom last summer. But any echinacea that is not designed to bloom in the first year, I highly recommend growing them by the winter sowing method because they really like that. The cold stratification helps with the germination. So I also have already in my garden, and I'll include some photos, an echinacea called Starlight, and those I grew from seed by winter sowing, and they did extremely well. The seventh plant that I would recommend starting by winter sowing, and in fact, I haven't heard of a lot of success around starting them by any method, but I had great success with winter sowing, and that's Himalayan blue poppies. I started those a number of years ago with seed that I got from West Coast Seeds, which is in British Columbia, Canada. So in the spring of 2021, really it was almost in the summer, they were tiny, tiny little plants. But 2 years after that, in 2023, I had glorious blue poppies, and it was definitely worth the effort. And winter sowing seems to be the way to do it. And the eighth and final plant that I would recommend starting by winter sowing, and that's the way that I started those that I have in my garden, is lupins. And lupins are very, very common around here. I did start the Russell lupins, and I got the seed at the time from Vessie's Seeds, which is in Prince Edward Island, and they grew extremely well by winter sowing. I was a little disappointed that all of them turned out to be kind of that dusty purple color. I was hoping for a white one or a pink one, but I didn't have any luck there. But they did extremely well. They're very, very easy to start by winter sowing. Have you used winter sowing in the past? Did you find that it was an easy method? Were you pleased with the results? Did you have success with something that you didn't have success with trying to grow it indoors? I'd really be interested in your experiences, and please share them with me. I would love to know how those things have worked for you in your garden. If you are new to winter sowing, it is a method of growing plants where you use containers such as this one. This is what I always use. This is a 2-liter water bottle, plastic water bottle. It's transparent, as you see, and you cut it in half approximately, and you leave just a little section as a hinge. And you make several, I have made 5 significant holes in the bottom for drainage. After you do that, you put soil. I usually use about 3 or 4 inches deep. You set your seeds, whatever the seed packet or whatever your experience recommends that you do. You close it, tape up the lid, and then you put them outside. Label it in some way. What I usually do is I will tie a little piece of yarn, and each color will be for a different plant, and I'll just jot that down in my gardening journal so I know which color has which seeds inside. You put them out in the snow, in the rain. You make sure that you leave the top off so that air circulates and rain can get inside, and you just leave it out there until the spring, and it will germinate at the time when the seeds would germinate if they were out there on their own. The difference is that if it's in a container like this, it's protected from pests, it's protected from predation, and there isn't as much competition from weed seeds and things like that. So it gives it a little head start. And for many plants, this is very helpful. If you're trying to germinate something that might be difficult to germinate indoors, this could be the answer. Also, if you would like to grow something and you're not in a hurry, a perennial, a biennial, a hardy annual, why not try winter sowing? Hardly any effort. Once you put them in the bottles and you put them outside, you really don't have to do very much after that. In the spring, check on them every few days once things are starting to warm up. And once you see some germination on really warm days, you can take the tape off, open them up, and let them get a little actual air, I guess, and just close up. You don't have to retape, just close the plastic for overnight. And then when they're starting to grow the second set of true leaves, that's when you need to move them into the garden. And although they may be very tiny at that point and they don't look very strong, they will be strong because they germinated outdoors. They'll be tough, hardy, vigorous little plants, and they will surprise you with how well they do in your garden. So thank you so very much for checking this video out today. I truly appreciate your interest, and I will sincerely answer any questions that you might have about things that I have grown. I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers by any means, but I've been gardening for a really long time, and I'd be happy to share my experience with you if it is of any value whatsoever. I'd be very happy to do that.